We're here with Nigel Farage, who's visiting campus as part of the Churchill conferences. So, thank you for being with us here today.
Very pleased to be.
Yes.
And I must say, it's interesting, isn't it, this figure Churchill,
Yeah.
how he kind of transcends the Atlantic. He makes the Atlantic feel very small.
Yeah.
There's so much love for him on both sides.
Mm-hmm. And with the bust in Donald Trump's office now, it feels even smaller.
Well, little story there.
Yeah.
So I went and met Trump on Saturday after the elections, just 4 days after the result, and as I was leaving the room, I said, would you consider putting the Churchill bust back in the Oval Office? And you know what? He's got it done,
did, yeah.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I love that photo of him and Prime Minister May on the bust.
Really
It's so much said in such a little picture. So.
And very important. I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. Okay, so because you're here as part of the painting exhibit, I just wanted to kind of start by asking some questions about him in terms of, us and Trump and all that kind of together. So Churchill was kind of in favor of a sort of United States of Europe-esque kind of European Union thing, but the European Union today has kind of gotten a little out of control, as some have said. So do you think that Churchill would have supported the European Union today? I know the Remain campaign used him a lot, but...
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Both sides claim Churchill.
Mm.
There was a building in Strasbourg within the European Parliament called the Winston Churchill Building. Now, my own view is he'd be horrified. And I'll tell you why. Don't underestimate the disaster, in many ways, that occurred in Europe. 1870 to 72, the Franco-Prussian War. 1914, the Germans invade. 1940, the Germans invade the Low Countries again. 3 times in the space of a normal adult lifetime, Germany invades with huge, in the last 2 cases, global consequences. So Churchill was looking for solutions and looking for answers. And he did say, that a United States of Europe could be a way of stopping all of this happening. But 2 key points on this. Firstly, Britain should not be a member of it because we had our links and associations through what he called the English-speaking world, which today I would define as the Commonwealth plus the United States of America. And secondly, Churchill was not an ideologue. If he'd seen that the idea of bringing countries together in a peaceful project had turned into the anti-democratic monster that it now is, and that doesn't have the support and consent of the peoples of Europe, there is no way that Winston Churchill today would support the European Union in its common form. Would he support close European relationships? Yes. Would he support countries being friendly, cooperating, trading? Yes, of course, but not this.
So, what are you most looking forward to with respect to England's newfound independence after leaving the EU?
Well, firstly, we get back our birthright, which is to make our own laws in our own land and be the masters of our own destiny. That, I think, first and foremost. Second to that, I am excited about us being able to reach out again to a bigger, broader world. I've been coming over and visiting Washington for the last 5 or 6 years regularly, meeting congressmen, meeting senators, meeting media commentators, explaining to them that we, as your traditional best ally in the world, find ourselves unable to be your best ally because the European Union won't let us. So we're now free, but we're not quite free. We're not out yet, but already I think what we're getting from Team Trump are very warm, very positive messages. Firstly on trade, that we can get closer together in terms of doing more trade with each other. Secondly, in terms of combating terrorism, we can continue and maybe even strengthen the intelligence sharing that happened between our 2 countries. And thirdly, in terms of, and I do think NATO needs redefining. I thought Trump was absolutely right to say, don't expect America to pick up the bill for this.
Yeah.
You've all got to pay your way to be members of the club, and I think Mrs. May and the British government potentially need to spread that message around the rest of the NATO members. Of the 28 NATO members who have signed up to 2%, I think 5 are currently paying their way. So no, I think that Britain and America are closer. I think it's a good thing for both of us, but I also think it's a good thing for global security.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, how do you think Churchill would have felt about Trump? Do you think they would have worked out well together?
Well, it's very difficult to compare somebody who was born in the middle of the Victorian era,
Sure.
with with the 21st century. I mean, the one thing Churchill completely understood was the power of the simple message and the use of media. People forget this about Churchill. He was a terrific showman. And the radio at the time, I mean, he was also a prolific writer of newspaper articles and everything, but he recognised that the radio was the means to get into people's houses, to get close to people, and nobody tried to use and exploit the radio more or in a better way than Winston Churchill. Trump has recognised that there's a new thing called social media, and he's going with that. And I'm quite sure if Churchill was alive today, he'd have the biggest global Twitter following of anybody. So I think in terms of understanding how to deliver messages, I think in terms of recognising what the new media of the day is, and I think in terms of the passion behind the politics that they represent, maybe they're not quite as far apart as most commentators would suggest.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Churchill's use of the radio. FDR also used the radio. I just, I'm just remembering.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's interesting how that mass communication plays.
Yeah, I mean, with FDR, it was the fireside chats, and through some tough times,
right?
Through some very, very tough, depression and all the rest of it. So yeah, and this is the remarkable thing with Trump. He knows that the liberal establishment media hate him, will always hate him, are not going to give him a fair crack of the whip. So what he's opted to do is to go around the back of them and just reach people directly. I mean, it's transformative.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really symbolic too with his message of getting the country back to the American people, and he's actually, communicating with them.
There's one or two echoes there.
Yeah.
There's one or two echoes that I hear with what Trump and those around him say, with, I guess, in politics, what's been my lifetime work. Namely, saying to people, we've got to get our country back. We've given away, something more valuable than money, and that fascinates me. The crossover. There are differences, of course, but the crossover between the motivations behind the Brexit vote and the motivations behind the Trump vote are quite remarkable.
Sure. That actually brings me to my next question. What is your kind of diagnosis about, or I should say, diagnosis of this kind of reaction to the Brexit vote and the Trump election? I mean, I remember after the Brexit vote, London was, of course, talking about wanting to leave, wanting to, annex away from Britain, and now that Trump is elected, there's all these, riots everywhere over everything he's done. What do you see as a similarity between them? I mean, why do you think this is happening?
Well, the establishment have had it their own way for far too long. They don't like losing. They still can't actually believe they've lost, and they want to turn the clock back. They want it to be 2015 again, where the big banks, the big businesses, the big politics are in charge of everything. Well, do you know what? It ain't going to happen. And you can listen to the Tony Blairs or others who basically think that 2016 was a blip. It was a short-term outpouring of anger, and we'll all sort of, collectively come back to our senses, and it'll all go back to the way it was before. Forget it. What happened in 2016 was a global revolution, and one that, in my opinion, is unfinished. I think that people have lost trust in established career politics. They've lost trust in the established liberal media, and they're now not scared to use their voice. And I expect that we'll see Brexit, Trump. I suspect that we'll see in Europe and elsewhere other big shifts. Basically, the nation state has made a comeback. I'm pleased to say.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So both Trump and Brexit, again, were kind of like populist revolutions. They're, if that may be a pejorative.
Well, I think it is a pejorative term, so I reject it.
Sure.
I reject it. I mean, actually, listen. Actually, in the UK media over the last few years, actually, Trump and I are the two most vilified people. We've had more abuse thrown at us than anybody else that exists in the world. I mean, you're a dictator in a third world country and you kill people, that's fine. But for goodness sake, don't advocate Brexit and don't advocate Trump.
Sure.
What is so extraordinary about the accusations of extremism, the accusations of isolationism, the accusations of spreading division and fear. What is so extraordinary about all of it is actually all we're really advocating is a return to normal. Because in normal circumstances, countries make their own laws, control their own borders, and do what's in the interests of their own people. That is what normal countries do. And it shows you how abnormal we've become, that those that advocate such a thing get the abuse they do.
So where do you see more of these kind of reactions coming? Throughout Europe, throughout the world? Are there anything that you see on the horizon?
Oh, I mean, 2017, whether 2017 itself will be as dramatic as 2016 in terms of the elections that are happening over Europe, the problems in the Eurozone, the continuing anger over the migrant crisis from coming through North Africa, whether it happens in 17 or not, what there will be in 17 is a significant shifting of the centre of gravity of the whole debate. We're seeing it already. Mrs. Merkel last week was saying, oh, actually, we must send failed asylum seekers home. What? That's somewhat the opposite to what she was saying. France, I think, is particularly interesting. And I think that Marine Le Pen will win, even if she doesn't win.
Okay.
In that she'll shift the argument. And you could argue, in a sense, that's what happened in Britain. But David Cameron never changed his mind. Oh, he used to masquerade at elections as being a bit Eurosceptic, but we always knew he completely bought in and believed in the project. But it was his fear of me that made him promise a referendum.
Absolutely.
And then in the end have to deliver a referendum. And I think if in the second round of the French elections it's close between Le Pen, Macron, Fillon, whoever it's going to be, I think you could see some significant concessions being made with the next French president. Listen, it could be Le Pen. It could be. The odds at the minute are against it, but then the odds were against Trump. The odds were against Brexit. What 2016's taught us, don't rule anything out.
Sure. Well, finally, I'd like to focus back on Hillsdale. We are mostly a right-wing body, in terms of America's Republican Party. What is Trump's victory mean for us? Do you think that we're going to face opposition being of that party, even if we didn't vote for Trump? Do you think it'll be harder in this new, the next 4 years, or easier?
I think what's interesting is the figures coming out last week showing that Trump now has more support within the Republican Party than Ronald Reagan had. So actually what's happened is the Republican family are now beginning to coalesce around this man. It wasn't like that throughout the campaign. And certainly after the tapes, at the time of the second debate in St. Louis, you saw a lot of Republicans running for the hills and leaving Trump on his own. He almost became an independent candidate. And yet, post all of that, Trump has been prepared to forget about it, which actually is the sign of quite a big guy. And the party's now coalescing strongly around him. And I would say to people at Hillsdale and people elsewhere, you've got in this president somebody who means what he says, and he intends to put it into action. And that, in a Western world where we're sick of politicians who make promises and don't deliver, I think it's refreshing, I think it's great. Will the opposition give up? The opposition will be noisy, but the opposition will become a smaller and smaller minority. And just as now a big majority of the British people accept Brexit and want the government to get on with it, I have a funny little feeling, I could be wrong, but I have a funny little feeling that a couple of years down the line, if Trump has brought back jobs, brought back prosperity, he seemed to have stopped illegal immigration and made America just a little bit safer, he could be a hero.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Mr. Farage, for sitting down with us.
Thank you.